The preparation of the national budget needs to be people-centered as we debate the national budget for 2021-2022 at this dialogue. Your deliberation today on the national budget will portray the citizens' position and will also provide alternative for effective implementation of this budget.
When we're training the MDAs, we advise them to look at a person as you're planning. So we use that model. So we start from the unborn, and then to the child, then to the youth, then the adults, then the older persons. And all of us, when we are planning, at least one of us falls in that category.
There has been an increment in terms of allocation to the local governments. But in terms of equity, we've seen local governments getting the smallest share. They need to invest in social services that these local governments are delivering is more important than anything else. So the resources are very limited. But of course, we urge the concerned stakeholders to use the resources efficiently. The infrastructure gap that is there is huge.
Venture capitalists have this money which they then deploy in these startups which have very good ideas, but they are novel, they have no track record. It's very expensive to finance them. So we are facilitating these investments with some kind of tax incentive, because the way they recover their money back, they will sell that investment. They will put in money in the business, get equity in it, then after some time, they sell and get out. When you sell, remember capital gains.
We are the first country in Africa to collect capital gains tax. And we have set the pace for other countries in the region and out of Africa as well.
We need to reorganize the banking sector, the entire financial sector. Because today, we are borrowing money to put in UDP. Government is borrowing money to put in UDP. But people like him can't even access it because the minimum is 100,000.
The most important thing would be to support players in the oil and gas sector, the ones who are now registered in the database, to access accessible credit, for example, to make sure that if we are to have pharmaceuticals, then it should be Ugandans setting up pharmaceuticals, not the Indians. But if you look at our current programs and the budget, we don't have any arrangement in that direction.
For this financial year, the compliance was at 66%, and this has improved from the last 5 years. It has improved by 50%. That means that the compliance rate has actually improved over the years.
One thing that is very critical is that we shouldn't trivialize the local content. We should try to build a local content architecture that is going to support the economy, because this is something very important. If we are talking about 15 to 20 billion US dollars, this is 50% of our GDP. Our GDP is around 40 USD billion dollars. It means if we can get the 20 billion, at least even if we got 40% and it sinks within the Ugandans, then that would be a very big achievement.
When you remember what Magufuli did, he renegotiated some of the agreements with Acacia Mining to look at the royalties and also to stop the export of raw minerals. He said you process them here so that we can be able to see how much is going out. Because when they take them out in raw form, you can't even know what to tax because you don't know how much is going out.
As a regulator for the oil and gas sector, our mission looks at how this project can create lasting value to Ugandans, but also maintain Uganda as a sound investment destination. So in bringing value to Ugandans, one of the areas we focus on is what we call local content development. That is the use of Ugandan goods and services in the oil and gas project.
It's important also to see how we link the petroleum sector to other sectors, for example, agriculture, because most often the mainland petroleum sector, in fact, it remains an enclave, a standalone. So we are looking at jobs of welding and driving, but how do we ensure that there is that link between the petroleum sector and the agriculture sector?
For you to supply goods and services or be contracted, you have to be registered on the National Supplier Database. And so this National Supplier Database, or the NSD, gives visibility to Ugandan companies. If you go to our website, the registration process is there. It's free of charge and it's done online. And the companies that are qualified or registered are also online on the database. And these have been categorized into different areas. We have agriculture, those that deal in transportation, manufacturing.
How far shall we go by only allowing foreigners to come and dig the gold and run away with it, than supporting our local systems and our local people to build their capacity and be in charge?
If we are talking about job creation, we are looking at a majority of Ugandans that are looking to get skilled. Where can they get jobs from? If in oil and gas, we are saying these projects are creating only 160,000 jobs, but in those 160,000 jobs, one welder, the multiplier effect that one welder has is very key. And if a welder learns how to weld a pipe, that welder can do for you the best there's a lot of furniture that's now done that's using such materials, and all kinds of jobs.
Information that the miners, that the oil and gas companies have in comparison to us who are seeing this for the first time is quite big. So they have been experienced for so many years. But how do we catch up? We catch up by acquiring all the knowledge that we can, building the capacity of our staff, and ensuring that they are up to speed.
As government, we are committed to transparency, and that is why we are now part of the EITI, and there's a lot more information that has been out in the public domain.
In fact, it's good, Gerard, you have shown us the domestic resource mobilization strategy, because it clearly says that we stop the tax exemptions and rationalize them. But today, when you look at the tax bills for this year, the tax exemptions are there, and you have even increased some other sectors to benefit from the tax exemptions.
I was looking at the budget and how much was given to DGSM or ministry, the mining sector, and it was so little. And they have no inspectors. There are so few inspectors, they are not well facilitated. So we shall always be in a situation where we are in a post-mortem. So let us facilitate DGSM, and then we shall be able to get revenue.
You have a tax policy which says people should pay, but then you have one person paying and another one not paying. That's where the treatment should be. How do we actually get everybody who should contribute to contribute?
The ability to identify new sources of taxes, I think, is quite very fundamental and also very, very important. Try also to bring in people who have not been paying taxes, like our local people,
the informal sector.
The informal sector. Try to make sure that they are formalized, because the more we are in the bracket, then the less the burden.